Hey everybody, and happy Friday. In today's episode of Dungeons & Dragons Horror Story Cringe, we have an example of why it might not be a good idea to give someone you don't trust control over your character in D&D. A story about a DM that doesn't like clerics for some reason, and much more. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and let's get right into these stories. Never Let a Stranger Play Your PC by Reddit user Penelakakake Memumu. When I was in college, I was part of an advanced Dungeons & Dragons campaign that was played 1 to 2 nights per week, usually on Thursday nights, and then a Saturday marathon if all the players and the DM were staying on campus for the weekend. One week, I got roped into an event that was going to take me off campus on Thursday night, and I wasn't going to be able to play. One of the other players told us that a friend of his had been asking about playing because he had played some in high school, so he asked if the group could play and let the friend take over my PC for the evening. The DM cleared it, and I said okay. When I got back on campus on Friday morning, I ran into one of the other players, and he said he needed to talk to me at lunchtime about the game. It turned out that the new guy ran the entire session off a cliff. My PC was a 10th or 11th level, chaotic neutral halfling thief who, due to a particular advantageous dexterity roll and a set of particularly light fingers, had accumulated a fair collection of magical goodies. They could be used for emergencies if needed, or defense on particularly egregious BBEG battles, but were really being held onto for trading or selling when the party got back to a major town. Instead, the guy begins using everything he could in minor skirmishes. He also attacked NPCs for no reason. When the party got into the big battle of the night, he had my character sneak away from the party to scout the scene. When he got away from the group, he reached into the bag and pulled out an item to throw into the melee that effectively resulted in a high-powered fireball being released on the BBEG, but caught the rest of the party in the conflagration. Fortunately, the other PCs were powerful enough that it didn't kill them all, but it did take a couple of them to 0 HP, and the ones who were still up had to use some powerful healing potions to get the party out of the scene. The party cornered my PC and tied him up. The DM of the group threw the new guy out of the session, and the guy who invited him apologized to everyone else there. I don't remember how the DM had our characters recover from the situation for the next session, but I know it was a combination of retconning and bizarre explanations of some sort of possession or charm. Now, I can understand having someone run your character for a session that you can't make, as it's been done in some of the games I've played. But you should never entrust the character to someone that you never met. If anything, the DM should have come up with a way that OP's character wasn't present for that session, and have the new guy play a guest character or NPC of some sort in order to feel them out. Thankfully, it sounds like the DM decided to eventually kick this guy out and retcon a bit. Otherwise, if I was OP, I would be pretty peeved and probably would have quit the game. Have you ever had someone else control your character when you couldn't make a session? If so, how did it work out? Be sure to let us know. But let's move on to the next one. The Barbarian Caused Me to Lose My Symbol by Reddit user Spastic Overkill. Roll call. DM, me, and other players. So, this was a campaign that was set in the homebrew world. I had rolled up a cleric life domain and went full healer build with some damage, but not much. I grabbed the healer feat, but I didn't get to do much as a cleric. After the DM reviewed my character and okayed it, we were sent off on a quest. Now, before I get too far in, I had set my god as a homebrew goddess of life and death, and wealth and poverty, so I was aiming to keep balance wherever I went. I saw a merchant and I haggled for a cheaper price, and when I saw a beggar, I gave them 2 gold. It was on our first mission that the DM decided to show how he actually felt about my character. I had just dropped a bandit wizard with a lucky hit from my mace when the DM describes, "As your mace sinks into the wizard, you hear a metal tick echo from somewhere nearby." Me. I cast light. DM. You go to cast your spell with your holy symbol, but nothing happens. Me. Is there an anti-magic field? I ask DM if I can see an arcane circle of an anti-magic zone. DM: no. Me: okay, do I have line of sight of an enemy mage? DM: you can't tell. It's hidden behind some rocks. Me: I cast light. DM: you try to cast and sparks fly from the symbol in your hand. Me: what the hell? I inspect my holy symbol. DM: you notice it has a crack down the middle. It nearly severs the symbol in two. Okay, so I broke my symbol mid-fight, whatever. But after I get a new one, the very next fight, the same thing happens. Your symbol is broken. And it's getting worse. I start only supporting the team. You're assisting in the murder of people and your symbol breaks. Only heal the mayor of a town, who opens an elderly care center. You helped a corrupt noble and your symbol breaks. Pay the tab of some people down on their luck in a tavern. You paid for their vice and your symbol breaks. Got materials for the blacksmith? Symbol broken. Helped the town guard? Symbol broken. Healed the rogue in the party after they went down? Broken. Gathered herbs in the forest? You just killed some plants? Symbol broken. It kept happening so much that I was healing more from herbalism than magic. The last straw happened when Barbarian had off the first goblin of a cavern. DM: you hear an echoing tink as your symbol breaks. Me: for fuck's sake, what is it this time, standing still? DM: you watched as your teammate killed a man and didn't even stop him. Me: okay, so can I kill, heal, or help? What can my character do without this symbol breaking? He can leave the party, the DM smugly suggests. Me: good idea. I turn to the other players and say, sorry folks, but it looks like there's no room for a support character. And I left. TLDR: DM hates that I made a cleric and stops me from playing, then suggests that I retire the character. So I retire from the campaign. How the hell did OP last as long as he did in that game? I mean, I would have noped the hell out of there after the second or even third time of that DM pulling that kind of thing. At least OP did eventually leave, even if it was after the 10th time. It also makes me wonder why that DM hated clerics so much. But let's move on to the next. No matter what you roll, you lose. By Reddit user Fire Hot Lava Ball. So, this story involves a Pathfinder 1st Edition campaign that I was a player in a few years ago. My group was trying to get to the top of a mountain to fight a phoenix, and the only way to the top of the mountain was through this temple. As we enter the temple, a female fire elemental being of some kind appears, and asks us our reason for being there. My character answers her, and the best excuse I can come up with on the spot is that we're mountain inspectors. Pretty dumb, I know, but it was the first thing I could think of, so the GM has me roll a bluff check. Natural 20. Now of course, a natural 20 on a skill check doesn't guarantee success, so the GM openly rolls for the opposing sense motive, and it's a natural 1. At this point, I'm celebrating, thinking that I've succeeded in tricking the fire elemental, and that the party is going to get to go through this temple without a fight. At least, that's what I think, until the fire elemental attacks us. In hindsight, the fire elemental sense motive bonus must have been so high that no matter what I rolled, I wouldn't have been able to beat it with my admittedly lackluster bonus to bluff. It likely didn't help that my lie wasn't the most believable. Even still, it stings to have the dice roll in your favor, only for the GM to determine that, regardless of what you rolled, you lose the skill check. Not the worst horror story out there, but it still kinda bums me out thinking about it. Yeah, that was a pretty out there excuse to give for being in that temple. But even still, with a bluff roll of 20 and the opposing roll being a 1, that GM should have let it pass, and it could have made for a pretty entertaining scene. Though, it sounds like that GM had no intention of letting that pass no matter what. In which case, why even let the player roll for it? If you're a GM and something happens that you don't even want to entertain the idea of working, don't even ask for a roll, as it gives the player a false sense of hope. And when something like that was rolled as high as it was in this story, it could probably cause some bad blood between you and the players. Let's move on. Player tries to take his player character hostage after encountering consequences. By Reddit user Hank Hoff. So, I played the Witcher tabletop RPG campaign with 6 players. I made several things very clear to everyone involved from the beginning, and repeated it several times. 1. Actions have consequences. 2. Working together is the only way to success. 3. Charging in without planning will likely get you killed, or at least lose body parts. 4. People you meet will not take kindly of dangerous or foolish behavior. 5. Combat is extremely risky and deadly. 2 of my players totally refused to even try to remember anything, and while one of them was more of the brooding silent guy waiting for combat, the other one regularly made trouble, while both were extremely fast to start a fight with people they didn't like. So far, this resulted in 2 party members leaving the group and getting their own mini-campaign for a short time, and the rest of the party being chased by bounty hunters at the time. In the wilderness, they meet 2 NPCs trying to investigate the dying of trees and animals in the region, and of course, necromancy is at work. The party offers to help, and everyone tags along, until they find a clearing filled with mist, in which there are multiple wraiths and a penitent, basically a ghost that is invulnerable as long as it can hide in the mist it creates. So to fight it, you have to get rid of the mist, or the other option is to kill the person which it haunts. In the middle of the clearing is a tree, and after some investigation, it becomes apparent that the person that the wraiths want to get sits on that tree. So the party starts thinking about how to get to the tree without getting in range of the wraiths, to either talk to the person up there and find out more, or kill them based on the situation. They have some interesting thoughts and keep planning until said player decides that he'll just randomly shoot at the tree through the mist without seeing anything. A groan goes through the group, since the player doesn't even want to hide his intentions. I let everyone roll awareness, and one pretty wounded player and an NPC realize what he's up to and roll a higher initiative. The player shoves the crossbow away from its target, while the NPC takes his axe and strikes at the crossbow, which is destroyed in the process. The hurt player attacks the NPC and gets downed momentarily, while 2 other players throw away their weapons and declare that they don't want to participate in this, and one even cast a minor curse on him, more of an annoyance than really damaging. The player proclaims that this is bullshit, but I explained that he just tried to jeopardize everything that was planned by those people, and he could be glad that the NPCs just attacked his weapon, while his character would probably have used lethal means if it was the other way around. He says if his crossbow is destroyed, which could have been repaired in a while, he will just walk into the mist. At this point, I got tired of this and just allowed him to walk off. The silent brooding player pulled his character back, got the description of the curse, and again proclaimed that if the curse affected him, he would walk into the fog, and that would be the last that we've seen from his character. Disclaimer: usually I don't encourage PvP, but since the problematic playstyle was already discussed out of game, and at this point would have been extremely out of character not to cast the curse or do something similar to teach that character, I allowed it. I posted a pretty long message in our gaming group after that session, and neither the problem player nor silent and broody player are part of the group anymore. Luckily, the character that was cut down in the process was saved by the spectacular healing skills of another PC, so in the end, this escalation probably was for the best. TLDR: NPC has a logical reaction to a player character's irrational behavior. Consequences occur, so the player threatens to kill his character multiple times if he can't ignore said consequences, and the character dies. Well, I mean, OP did lay down the rules of the game and how it would be played at the very beginning, and by the sounds of it, multiple times afterwards. So I don't blame OP for playing the game the way they said it would be played. And it's totally on the players at that point if they want to make the stupid decisions and get the consequences of their actions laid upon them. If anything, The players throwing the tantrum and having their characters die stupidly was probably for the best, as this behavior would probably just keep happening otherwise. And by the sounds of it, it looks like the trash took itself out in this case, and OP doesn't have to deal with these two players anymore. So overall, a happy ending. And before we get into the final story of the day, I ask that if you're enjoying the video, that you roll a crit on that like button, and consider subscribing if you aren't already. If not for me, then do it for Simba. Now let's get into the story. The story of how the game never started and how the police showed up. By Reddit user, Bumblebee Reader. This is a very short story of an incident that happened before a campaign could even begin. There was an advertisement for this 5e Final Fantasy campaign that was being worked on by Anonymous. He had a few classes finished and was going to have us playtest them. I thought I was lucky when I was accepted into this one-shot he had planned, and I was even allowed to invite one of my friends to try this homebrew out. I drove up to the parking lot and parked my car, and this is where things quickly go south. I didn't even need to open the door or lower the car windows to hear the yelling that was going on from inside. At first, I thought the people attending were just being loud and having fun, though that wasn't the case. It took a couple of seconds to realize that there was some kind of argument. I don't know what the argument was over, but I could hear one of the attendees accusing someone of doing something. I don't know who Anonymous was in this situation, but I waited a few minutes for it to calm down. Though it didn't get better, it only got worse. It wasn't until I heard something shattering that I quickly started my car back up and drove out of the parking lot. I stopped by the side of another house and quickly called my friend to warn them about what was happening, as his car wasn't there yet, and how he shouldn't show up. While leaving the district, I saw several cop cars driving past me with their police sirens blaring, and sure enough, they were headed to the place where the game was being hosted. I left the Facebook group they were in and haven't heard anything about them since. Well, OP leaving and warning their friend of what was happening was probably the best decision that OP could make in that situation. Though I personally would have been half tempted to go see what was going on. I guess we shall never know, unless someone that was actually at that game posts a story of their own, which I will be keeping an eye out for. But that will do it for today. If you have a story that you would like this Doge to read, be sure to post it to the D&D Doge subreddit, post a link in the comments, or even message me on Twitter. As always, I appreciate all of you, and hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Until next time.